Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. A new one dropped this morning on all the Inside the Birds platforms and wherever you listen to your podcast. It's brought to you by the Atlantic City Airport. Plan your summer vacation now. Spirit Airlines is offering nonstop flights from Atlantic City International Airport to Boston, Atlanta, San Juan, Miami, and other exciting destinations. Visit spirit.com. Geoff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com is here as we take a look at the Eagles' new safety. What kind of impact will Jaquiski Tartt have on the Eagles' secondary, and is the deal's done for Howie Roseman? Kind of a sneaky little deal on Friday there, Geoff Mosher, when it seemed that we were in the down period. The Eagles brought in a guy who has a lot of starting experience.
You said it, Mike. He's got a lot of starting experience. He has been a starter for the San Francisco 49ers, and they've been, for the most part of his career, they've been a good team. They've made a Super Bowl. They've had a good defense. He's played in cover 3. He's played in quarters coverage, which is what we suspect Jonathan Gannon wants to do more of, which is basically zone. You know, he's an excellent zone safety, or at least he has been, and he's a good tackler. Now, he's not a playmaker. He's not someone who is going to get you 5 to 6 interceptions a year, but he is a very good tackler, someone who can come in the box, be a strong safety. And that's really, you know, depth is what the Eagles needed at that position. And we've talked about that going into it. We thought they would sign a safety, and clearly they came with a guy who has experience in what they want to do defensively. So it's a good signing. It'll be interesting to see how they work him in and where they think he will fit in the plans.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of the questions I got over the weekend is, well, is he a starter? Does he replace Anthony Harris or Marcus Epps? Does he compete with those guys? Is he a depth piece? I mean, obviously you start to peel the onion back with this signing and wonder what's the thought process here.
Well, you know, Anthony Harris was with the team last year. Marcus Epps is a guy that they want to give more snaps to. They want to give more time to. Now, it's my understanding that the contract that he signed will be very similar to what Anthony Harris signed. So it'll be interesting to see as we get through training camp and then get to the season opener where where kind of the differential is between these two. Because I think a lot of people believe that when they signed Jaquiski Tartt that he's automatically taking Marcus Epps' job. I don't believe that. I do think they want to see Marcus Epps. He can run better than most safeties and probably better than Jaquiski Tartt, who has dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. So we'll see how it works out at training camp. But I think, if anything, his skill set is more comparable to Anthony Harris than it is Marcus Epps.
Right. I mean, you look at what he did in San Francisco, and some people will try to envision, okay, what did he do there? Can he do that here? And there's some people I talked to out in San Francisco wonder if he was kind of miscasted a little bit in San Francisco because of who he was playing with.
Yeah, I mean, he's played next to some pretty good safeties, including Eric Reed and at one time Antoine Athea. And he always had a chance to become like probably a better, more known safety, but he's been injured a lot in his career. And that's when you wonder why he was, you know, unemployed this late into the offseason. Injuries was more the reason than, say, his age or what kind of defense he's been in.
Yeah.
So he's got to prove he can stay healthy. I mean, he's had everything from turf toe to other lower leg injuries that have really prohibited him from kind of taking that next step to being considered one of the best safeties in the league. Because I know at one time he felt he belonged in that conversation. But, you know, we'll have to see if he can stay healthy. But he certainly brings a good skill set, gives the Eagles depth, and if he can challenge for a starting spot, that's just better for the Eagles.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, you've got Tartt in here now. You would imagine if he's not the starter, definitively upgrades the safety spot in terms of the depth, because I guess Kayvon Wallace was your next guy. So that means, you know, you feel a lot better now if there's an injury.
You do feel better if there's an injury. And I think it kind of speaks also volumes about how they feel about Kayvon Wallace, who was their 2020 fourth-round pick, who has really struggled to get on the field on defense and make a difference. Kayvon kind of talks a big game. We remember last OTAs, he was out there making fun of Cam Newton during the joint practices between the Eagles and the the Patriots. But he has yet to really prove that he belongs out on the field and he can be relied upon. And so that's why, when you look at the depth chart now, you say, all right, you got Anthony Harris, you got Marcus Epps, you got Jaquiski Tartt. And here's another thing. If you're a backup safety on any team, especially the Eagles, you're probably going to be known for what you do on special teams. But Andre Sachare and Jared Maiden are good special teamers. So for a guy like Kevon Wallace, if you're not better on special teams than Sachare or or Maiden, are you making this team? Right. Now all of a sudden, he's got to look at this 53-man roster and wonder if he's going to be there when the season starts.
Hey, you look at it, and, I said this on Friday, Moshe, this is one of those signings where you're like, inside those that front office, this is the kind of signing that makes you, kind of look inside their mindset of, hey, we have a chance to better this roster. We're going to go for it, right? I mean, so you wonder, is something else still out there then?
Maybe a running back, Mike, because we've talked about the fact that they only have a few running backs. I mean, it's Miles Sanders, it's Boston Scott, it's Kenny Gainwell. And after that, you're talking about Kennedy Brooks as a power back, and he's an undrafted free agent out of Oklahoma. He's not really anybody who's proven, but yet if you look at this running back core, you kind of feel that they might need someone who's a downhill runner, who's back and proven, someone like, say, Jordan Howard. So it wouldn't surprise me if they brought Jordan Howard into the fold at some point, whether that's, in the next week or two or at camp or going into the year. But that's probably the only position I think you look at and you say they really could use another body.
What about if you brought in, another veteran corner as like that depth third guy? Because if there is an injury at corner, there is a lot of unknowns there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did that with Jimmy Moreland, and people say Jimmy Moreland is only a slot corner. And if you have Avonte Maddox, then there's probably not any reason to have Jimmy Moreland. But, I mean, he has played the outside in the NFL. It's not maybe his best spot. But when you look at your first five and you've got Bradbury and Slay and Maddox as your top three and Jimmy Moreland 4 and Zach McPherson 5 and then all the guys that they kind of brought in from Tay Gowan and Matt McCain, I don't know if they're going to feel the need to really bring in another one-year veteran type of guy.
I guess, there was a report today. Was it today? I guess, or maybe over the weekend. I guess that one of the teams that offered Trey Waynes a contract was the Eagles, and I guess he decided to stay retired. But he said, yeah, the Eagles were one team, but I decided to stay retired. That's what it made me think, like maybe they're still – unless Moreland was the guy they took instead.
It's very possible, and it's also possible that they just placed a call to see where he was at. And, we have interest, but we want to know where he's at, what his price tag is.
Because he played with John Gannon in Minnesota. He said, quote, I actually almost went to Philly to go back with JG and Anthony Harris is who he was talking about. But at that point, I was like, nah, I'm ready to be done. So he did admit that that he almost went to Philadelphia.
Yeah, it feels like Lou Brown, right, from Major League. Like, let me think about it. I've got the white walls to sell online, too.
Right, I got a guy on the other line for a good set of white walls. I'm okay here. You guys do what you're going to do over there. But, no, he would have been, Trey Waynes would have been that veteran kind of piece in that secondary that maybe I'm kind of hinting at.
Yeah, he would have been. And the same thing with him. Like, is he going to stay healthy? Does he still have what he had before? So I think when you get this far into June and everybody who's out there, some of them have names, but they also have injury histories, and that's why they're still out there. And so I don't really think you're talking about a big differential between him or Jimmy Moreland or whoever's out there.
Yep, he would be one of them. So I guess that Tartt, Harris, Epps goes at one of the top of the list of training camp battles that you're going to be keeping an eye on, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think Tartt comes here, and I'm imagining that he came here because he saw more opportunity here than maybe other places that wanted to sign him for depth as well. Like, I still think the Eagles say you're coming here to be a competitor, to add depth, but we'll give you a look, and if you can outperform, then obviously will give you more snaps. And so he probably looked at the roster and said, wait, the only people I have to outperform are Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll give that a try, because if you look at my resume compared to theirs, it's just as good, if not better.
On top of the fact, top of the fact too, that you're coming into a team that you like to think is a pretty good team all of a sudden.
Say that again.
On top of the fact, you're coming to a team that you think is a pretty good team all of a sudden. You're not just coming to a team, hey, I might have a chance to play on a 4-win team here. This is a team that made the playoffs last year and has gotten much better.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you also look for similarities, and the fact that he's kind of played in heavily zone defenses and cover 3s and cover 4s, and says, hey, I've played in that. What they want to do is what my skill set caters to. They're a pretty good team. They're on the rise. I can sign a 1-year deal here, and if I play really well, think of Patrick Robinson, right? When he came here, he was a corner who had been in the league for many years. He was a veteran, and you might say, well, he's on his last legs, but he was able to parlay his 1 year with the Eagles into a 4-year deal with the Saints that was for some pretty good money. So I'm sure anybody is looking at a situation here with the Eagles saying, if I do well on a 1-year contract and I, really kill it, James Bradbury might be thinking the same thing. I can probably sign a 3 or 4 year deal with somebody else and make some pretty good money.
Yeah. Oh, that's
like, it's not like he's 35. Jaquiski Tartt, I think, is 30, if I'm not mistaken.
No, yeah,
so he's got years.
In fact, he might even be younger than that. But by the way, he was a second-round pick a couple of years ago. So this is a guy who comes into the league who had a little bit of, had some talent. Now, you mentioned Robinson. Now, I'm not comparing this team to the Super Bowl team by any stretch, but this offseason feels a lot like that offseason. Like you mentioned, guys who were kind of like, Robinson, what is he, a first-round pick, came in here and flourished. It just seems that the way they have placed these signings, it's like it feels a lot like that offseason.
No question. I think they've done a really good job of signing a lot of key veterans to 1-year deals like they did in 2017. James Bradbury, now Jaquiski Tartt. Kaiser White signed like a 2-year deal, I think, but like most of these deals are structured like 1-year deals. It wouldn't surprise me again if they signed another running back as well. So I think they've done a really smart. They've gone about it the right way. Who knows how good they'll be? Obviously, Carson Wentz had to play at an MVP level in 2017 for them to win 12 games. We'll see what Jalen Hurts does. I think this roster, I know this roster, and so do people with the Eagles, believe that this roster is way better than it was coming out of last year. So it's more equipped to compete. Safety was the big area where you said, man, they really, if they have an injury or they're just not that good, they're really hurt, that might hurt them. And now you add another guy who's experienced, he's got a good pedigree, and so it does feel a lot like the 2017 offseason from an approach standpoint, certainly.
Yeah, and you mentioned, with Tartt is going to add some intrigue to that safety battle at training camp in that safety room. The other one, you mentioned Kaiser White. That's the next one that I'm kind of really anticipating is what John Gannon does with this linebacking room.
Yeah, and I think he still has to figure that out. I mean, he has Nakobe Dean, he has T.J. Edwards, he has Kaiser White, he has Davion Taylor, who I don't want to count out. I mean, Adam and I have been among those who are, I guess, skeptical of Davion only because of the fact that he was picked in the 3rd round, and no other team we spoke to had him as a 3rd-round pick. But it's undeniable what he brings from an athletic standpoint. And obviously he has struggled to stay healthy, and that might be the reason where he's on the outside looking in when all this is said and done. Yeah. But on the other end, if he just has a great camp and he stays healthy and the athleticism through, then you're going to want to get him on the field, and it makes it better for their competition. So we'll see how that all unfolds.
Hey, did you, after the short OTAs and anything, the rookie camps, anything stand out like about Dean or any of the rookies that? Did you hear anything that, hey, this guy really opened some eyes or anything to that extent?
I wish, Mike, but, one thing that we talked about with you and Inside the Birds is that this has been a camp season like none other, in that they just have done so much more group work and individual work than 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s. So it's really, really difficult to say or even hear from people who watch the tape exactly who's shining. I mean, if anything, we've been told by people, don't make too much of this and that because it only happened in a drill, not a real 11-on-11 or 7-on-7. When I went to the second open practice, I thought there was a pass where Minshew threw it over the middle, and Kaiser White did a nice job of kind of getting physical with the receiver. The ball went up in the air. Davion Taylor plucked it out of the air and ran it back. But, can I kind of extrapolate that to a game? Absolutely not. Or even a rigorous practice? No, absolutely not.
All right, Geoff Mosher, check out the latest Inside the Birds. I'm sure more conversation about how Jaquiski Tartt will fit in and some of the depth chart and camp battles. That's all in the part one of the two-part series reviewing the Eagles roster. That dropped today. They're looking at the offensive side of the ball. We'll take a look at some of the stuff, too. NFC East. Don't forget, Andrew's back with our division previews. We're going to the AFC West on Thursday. We got all that during Football on 4. And don't forget, July 26th is when Eagles camp opens, and we'll be all over that here on Football on 4. All right, Moshe, take care, pal.
Thank you, Mike. Talk to you Wednesday.
There's Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com.